Hello everyone, Air Max here. Today I want to have a little discussion about an article I discovered this morning via the Twitter account of Gaming on Linux. And man, this article made me upset, like really upset. And I thought I needed to make a video about it and give you some feedback. Are you ready? Let's get into it. All right, like always, let's start with a little bit of context. This gentleman here, Matthew Conaster, I have nothing against him. I'm certainly sure he's a really professional journalist, and he wrote this paper thinking he was doing a great thing, giving nice information, sharing his, I would say, experience with whatever he was doing there. There is nothing personal. Matthew, if you watch this video, again, nothing against you. But from a professional standpoint, when you execute any type of piece of work, whether it's in journalism or being a plumber or changing a roof on a house or whatever, sometimes people make mistakes. Maybe this video is a mistake. I don't believe so, but maybe it is. What is important is like being able to bounce back, take the critique from a professional standpoint, and move on. I'm French, and obviously sometimes I'm overcritical, I know it. And I'm speaking in English because I'm living in Canada, so, it might sound a little bit weird in terms of like attitude, but this is how I am. And I feel like when I see an article like that, I need to share my vision about it. The article itself is not too long. The way we're going to go through it is that I'm going to give you a link in the description below, like that you're going to have the opportunity to read the full of it. And me, I'm just going to cut it through paragraph and give my feedback toward what I'm reading here. So the title is Why I Like Linux on My Steam Deck, but not on my desktop. I never wanted to use Linux on my desktop or laptop, but in the end of a dedicated developer, it becomes an amazing operating system. So in the first paragraph, the author explains why he feels like Windows is janky and has a lot of bugs, and why like all those problems kind of push him to try Linux. This, I totally agree with him, and I like to say that Linux right now is a good alternative. But what shocked me in the second part of the paragraph is this sentence here. However, as bad as Windows has been, Linux, as it currently exists, can never replace it. This sentence by itself is a big no-no. You're comparing the past of Windows with the current state of Linux and the future of Linux. And his argument is developing under, in this little line, is pretty simple. He's saying Linux is too highly customizable for the end user. And because of that, only corporation with active developer can customize it to work on a device like the Steam Deck. Otherwise, if you take Linux and install on your computer, it's not just good enough. It's too complicated. Or, as he mentioned it, too customizable. What are you saying, dude? Like, what is this statement all about? You can't say you are refusing to use this piece of software because it's too customizable. It doesn't make sense to me. The fact that you can customize it is actually great. Now, the real question is like, can you customize it? Are you willing to spend the time to customize it? And this, where I believe this gentleman, and again, I have nothing against him, hurt a big wall. That's my thought. So then, in the next paragraph, he kind of like dive into it and explain what is the real problem with Linux and why he can switch. When you read this first part, you understand he wanted to go with a distribution called HoloISO. And man, this distribution is a tough one. Let me explain you. We are on the GitHub page of HoloISO. I don't know if you say HoloISO, HoloISO. I'm going to say both. The way the author of HoloISO described it, he said that this is SteamOS 3 ArcISO configuration. This project attempts to bring the Steam Deck SteamOS Holo redistribution into a generic unstableable format and provide a close to official SteamOS experience. It's a small project. There is like 17 contributors. There is 401 issue open on GitHub. The latest update was made in December 11 on 2022, and the latest contribution in January of this year. To say this ISO is kind of like dormant is more than accurate, but he decided to go with it. And then by reading a little bit more, he kind of like explained the problem he had by installing this distro on his computer. So for everybody like coming to the channel and not having any idea of what I'm talking about, this dude with, in my opinion, like totally inexperimented in Linux, because his first paragraph is clearly saying that it's too complicated for him, decided to run one of the worst ISO for a beginner and to try to install it on a machine. It's literally what he's trying to do. So to give you an example, let's say you are learning how to swim, and instead of like trying to get a buoy and go into the water where your feet actually touch the ground, you decide to jump in the middle of the sea. This is exactly what this gentleman is doing. And he's writing an article on how hard it is to swim. Bro. Like what is happening here? So the first problem he had was to install an extra SSD inside his computer and in his operating system. And obviously, like with Arch-based ISO, well, if you don't know what you are doing, you're going to be in trouble. And here you can, I'm going to quote him because it's actually pretty fun for people who knows. Installing Holo ISO didn't actually work at first, since Valve privated one of their repository. Okay? And installing a second SSD required changing a hidden text file. So I'm guessing he's talking about fstab. It's not a hidden file, but I guess for him it was hidden because he had no idea what he was doing. By contrast, installing a SSD on Windows takes like 5 minutes at most. Well, you have been using Windows for many years. I'm pretty sure you know how to change a SSD, right? But if you are going on the new operating system, changing a SSD might require different operation. And the beauty of Linux here is that if you took any other like distro, which is simple and more like beginner oriented, it would have taken like 1 minute to do it too. But I don't know. Another sentence that I think we need to quote is this one. The key problem with Linux is that total freedom means total responsibility. And when we are talking about an operating system, very few of us have the technical know-how to actually use that responsibility. Well, welcome to the free world. If you have total freedom, it comes with responsibility, like everything else. And you need to learn what you need to do and not need to do. I hope it makes sense. If tomorrow I go out with a baseball bat and decide to hit someone with it, well, I might be in trouble because I don't have the right to do that. I have the freedom to do it, but I have a law that on paper is gonna punish me for doing something like that. So it's exactly the same thing here. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. You need to learn what to do, what is good and what is bad. So I just a point here. Blaming Linux to this extent is actually not fair for Linux. But the article is not done yet. It's getting better. Let me tell you, it's getting better. Sorry, I'm laughing, but it's kind of like nervous at this level. In this paragraph here, he kind of explained how hard it was for him to install Mongo HUD and how hard it was also to configure it. And one of the sentences that really hurt me was, it took me a couple of hours to get Mongo HUD working between the usual Linux nonsense and an acute lack of documentation. I'm like, bro, Mongo HUD is one of the most well-documented piece of software out there. Like I've been on their Discord for months now because I'm also do benchmarking on Linux, and so I know what I'm talking about. I use this software. They have people answering all your questions on Discord. On top of that, if you don't know how to configure it and you don't want to bother anyone, maybe you should just Google MongoHud guy or GUI, whatever you want to pronounce it, and read the result. What do I see here at the first result? Thank you, Arch, by the way. A guy GUI for configuring MongoHud can be installed from Go Overlay from the OR. Just in case you were too lazy to go through this, you just click on the link and it's written here. GUI for configuration. MongoHud can be installed from Go Overlay. You click on that. You arrive on the Arch Linux user repository. And here, you just read the fourth line here. And what do we have here? The upstream URL. Go Overlay. You click on that. And here we are. It's magical. You go down. Go Overlay is an open source project aimed to create a graphical UI, aka GUI guy, to manage Vulkan/OpenGL overlays. It looked pretty good for my taste. And you have all the different command line to install on every distribution. Why do you mean by nonsense, undocumented Linux stuff? Like why are you using word like that? It just drives me insane. Like, do you have this type of documentation on Windows? Because if you do, please write it in the comment below. I'm really impatient to look at those. Like, really impatient. Looking back at the article, here it literally kills the fact that Linux apps on GitHub don't come with precise instruction because you are just supposed to know how to start. I just show you, this is plain wrong. You don't have to edit any config file here. You install MongoHud, you read the description, you have to add it in the command line or whatever game you are playing, which is normal. And then you go on, you type Go Overlay, you go there, you install the application, it takes 5 seconds, then you launch it, and boom, you never use the terminal there. You have nothing to do. So I don't understand why you are blaming the documentation where you are not able to do your research. And this is a common trait I've seen from a lot of users which are like trying to change operating system. You can't blame the operating system. You are changing everything. You're gonna have to relearn. It's normal. There is nothing new here. In one of the videos I made, I clearly explained it was my 1 year of Linux desktop experience and everything I learned. If you look at the different chapter, here I explain, learn how to search you on your own. It's simple as that. If you know how to search, you will never be left behind ever again on Linux because everything is there. Just for science. But I think the key point here is like you need to learn how to search on your own because everything is there. Like how can I say it better? It's there. Do your research. But don't blame the community or Linux itself because you didn't do it. So in this specific part of the article, the author continues his reflection towards the fact that only Valve was able to create the perfect Linux ISO for gaming and was only able to make it work for the Steam Deck. Again, like this is a wrong take. Let me explain. If I understand correctly what he's trying to say here, or maybe we are lost in translation, here he's saying that while Linux had some downside, like not having a native support for a lot of games and apps, the deck is only possible on Linux. Valve was able to totally configure the OS to his liking, which in turn allows the Steam Deck to run games that aren't even compatible with Linux thanks to Proton. So I'm super confused by this sentence because in my head I'm like, does this gentleman knows that Proton is not proper to the Steam Deck and you can run all the game on Linux too? You don't need SteamOS to do that? I'm super confused here. And I believe he does not understand that because I reread this sentence many times. And I don't think he knows. Guys, I just don't think he knows. I believe he tried to install Holo ISO. I never installed Holo ISO. I will never, to be fair. But maybe he didn't go to the option to activate Proton. I don't know. Like, I don't know what he has done there. But he has a problem, that's for sure. And then he kind of explained why Windows cannot follow. We already know that. Like, installing Windows on the Steam Deck is not a good idea anyways, but why not? And this one is the last part. I will call it, as we say in French, la cerise sur le gâteau. Cherish on the cake. Linux could even beat Windows where it's strongest eventually. Another change of mind from the author, where he kind of explains that even he struggled to install Holo ISO, when he installed Windows 11 on the same machine to get the same result, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different issues related to Windows. And it looked like some of them he just could not solve them. But somehow, in this article, he blames the fact that he had only 2 problems on Linux, and it took him 3 hours to 4 hours, or even 10 hours to solve because 1, he didn't install the right distribution, and 2, he didn't read the documentation. I don't know. Like here, this is where I have a problem with the article itself, because I think, I'm going to repeat myself, but when you write an article like that, you need to give a really fair approach to the data. Here, what I can see is like there is 5 issues with Microsoft. There is 2 with Linux, and I still think that Linux is a bad tech. Like, why? I have the feeling that most of the users nowadays, they want to go and use whatever device they have in 1 second and learn everything in 10 minutes. It's just not happening. Think about how many hours most of the users, like this gentleman, spend on Windows before being able to solve any issue. Like one of the things that drive me insane is like here, not have to edit the registry to be able to press the home button without Windows glitching out. Like just think about it. You know the level of technicity you need to open the registry, being able to edit it. It's not because there is a GUI or a guide that makes the whole concept easier. I'm sorry, like this article is pure wrong. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. It just drives me insane. And what drives me even more insane is that Linux desktop has never been in such a good position for the last 30 years. This is an article which was published like 2 hours ago. And it's just saying that the market share of Linux desktop is just growing day after day. And from my personal experience, I totally switched from Windows to Linux almost 2 years ago. I don't want to go back to Windows. The experience on the last 2 years have been insane. Like the way the experience, I would say, improved is just crazy. 2 years ago, it was kind of hard to run a game on Linux. Now it's finger in the nose. Finger in the nose. The performance is here. Before making this video, I was about to make a video for Diablo 4. I have better performance on Linux than on Windows. It's one of many games where my performance is just better. And I have an NVIDIA card. I have nothing special. It's just better. So why are we still having those type of like bad article with people who are not willing to spend the time to learn? So again, I have nothing against this gentleman, but please, when someone like write an article, or you as a beginner from Linux, take the information from people who have been in this environment, in this landscape, in the community for a longer time. Don't take advice from someone else. who doesn't know what he's talking about. And again, it's okay. This gentleman made a mistake there. It's all right. And if you are an actual journalist and you are watching this video, you want to get into Linux, you want to comment onto Linux, spend some time on it for real. The era where, you know, this meme where you see this dude like typing like crazy, having the matrix screen going on to install Firefox, it is done. Everything is way easier now. It's actually safer and easier to use Linux. I'm just saying. Okay, just for the lol, let's watch the comments. There is 32 comments. Oh no. Okay, and here we have the totally aggressive reaction, dude. Oh boy. Oh boy. And this is the other problem from the community. Guys, calm down. This poor dude is trying to make an article for a living. He maybe made a mistake there, but like, you don't need to destroy him. Like, I tweeted this morning about it. I was really upset. And then I was like, okay, make a video. Just put your word out there, but try to be pro, okay? Like, no, don't start like that. Use a one obscure Linux distro and expect it to be plug and play. It is right, but it's just too aggressive. Seriously, I'm surprised that such a low quality content is even allowed on XDA. Most consumer-oriented distro, if not allow to format a new drive without even touching a command line. I know. How can you judge all of desktop Linux by using a niche, unconfigured SteamOS clone? Yeah. Yeah, this poor guy is gonna have a hard time, man. He's gonna have a hard time. Anyways, I don't want to go too deep into that. I think I share my thought into it. I think this is a good take. I kind of feel bad for the author, but you should probably research a bit more before writing such article. Yeah, I think this is the issue I have with the article. Like, guys, how do I conclude this video? If you're a beginner, install Linux Mint. This article actually remotivated me to do a full Linux installation for beginner. And I would say installation, but also optimization. I'm going to make a series on Linux Mint. That's going to be one of my big projects. So if you like what you watch, if you want to learn more about Linux, don't hesitate to subscribe. If you got anything out of this video, please give it a like. Also leave a comment below. Like, tell me what you think. Like, and yeah, like, no hate towards this guy. I think he just tried to do his job, but this one, he kind of missed it. That's my take. I am out. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Take care.